Hello and welcome to the first episode of my Let's Play series for Dwarf Fortress. I'm Sippy Cup, and I hope you'll find this video pretty informative. So first things first, the version of Dwarf Fortress I'm using is the newest version. It's 31.12. So I want to put in the comments for the video exactly where you can download this version, and in fact I like to use this version called Lazy Noob Pack, which is basically a compilation that has the latest version of the game, as well as some other utilities that will make your life easier, and we'll kind of go over that more later. So this is the first screen you're going to see after you get through the little cool ASCII cinematic. Probably you won't have these top two options the very first time you play, because continue playing is for loading a save game, and start playing you don't get this option until you've created a new world. So the very first thing you want to do is this: create a new world now. So go ahead and select that and press enter. Now it'll give you a little disclaimer, blah blah blah, this is still technically an alpha, could cause crashes, blah blah blah, just whatever. Press escape. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the world that you are going to be playing in is going to be procedurally generated by the game. You see it's making all kinds of forests and rivers and mountains and stuff, and this is pretty cool because every time you play it's going to be a little different. You're going to have a whole new world, and it's more than just the world in the sense of the physical location, but also the lore and history of the land and all this kind of stuff. Now this does take a little while, so I'm going to pause the video until this is done, and I will resume once it's made me a nice world. Now while this is going, I thought I'd mention a couple things. If you already have the game, if you've downloaded just the vanilla version, you'll probably notice that if you've gone through this process, your map is going to look different. And the reason for this is because the Lazy Noob Pack that I told you about before includes what's called a graphical tile set. This basically replaces all of the default ASCII characters with a more accurate graphical representation of what the ASCII characters are supposed to be stand-ins for. So here you see trees and mountains and stuff actually look like trees and mountains, not ASCII characters. This is really kind of a matter of personal preference. If you want to use the vanilla one, you can, but I don't know, I find it's a little bit too Spartan for my taste, so I like to use the tile set. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pause again. Other thing I better point out is that this process can take a long time, and I would say maybe 1 in 10 times it will just think forever. So if that happens, you have to Control-Alt-Delete and basically just close the program, or you can press escape and I think it'll kick you back to the main menu. This time is one of those times, I think, that it is taking longer than normal, so I'm just going to keep it paused and hopefully it'll be done soon. Okay, we seem to be cooking with hot oil now. I had to go back a couple of times and basically restart this world generating process. As that disclaimer said, it is an alpha, so occasionally you need to do this. As you can see down here, this is the recounting legends part of the world generation process. So here you can see the year, historical figures that have lived, ones that have died, and then events. There's actually a mode in the game which is really kind of like an archive of the events of note in the world that you're creating here. And if you want, when this process is done, you can go through and kind of get a little backstory into what is happening in your world. What historical figures did crazy things, cities that were overthrown by goblins or dragons or who knows what. Anyway, so usually this needs to get up to about 1,000 before it's done, so I'm going to pause it again, and once it's done I'll resume. Okay, at long last it's finally done. So you can see here that the world is called Shagthoxa, the Ever-Seeing Dimension. So you've got a couple options down here. You can use your movement keys, which is basically just your directional keys on your keyboard here to move around and see what everything looks like. But we're just going to go ahead and press enter to accept. Alright, so it's going to do a little more thinking real quick. And then we're going to get a new screen where we're going to be able to actually choose where we want to embark in the world with our dwarves. Okay, I paused it there, but once that's done with all the offloading units and whatnot, you're going to get back to this screen. So now you will have this option, Start Playing, which you will see right here. So now that you've got your world, you can start playing. So go ahead and press Enter. And I've got a couple of worlds generated here from other times, but we'll use this one that I just created, the Shagthoxa. Okay, so now you have three options for games. Basically, there's Dwarf Fortress, which is kind of the classic mode where you're building a fortress and trying to survive. Adventurer is kind of like a NetHack or Moria or Angband type game where you're controlling a single dwarf or human or whatever, and kind of that style of game. And then Legends is the mode that I was mentioning before, where you can go into your world and see all the kind of historical events that happen and blah blah blah. Alright, so we want to do Dwarf Fortress, so we'll select that, and I'm going to pause it. Okay, so this is the screen that you're eventually going to get, and so here's kind of the features that you're looking at. You have three maps here. You have World Map, which is kind of the biggest view. You have a Region Map, which is slightly more zoomed in, and you have a Local Map. And this is really, these squares basically represent, this is the boundary of the zone that you will be playing on. So this is kind of like the size of your map right here. So what we're really looking for is an ideal site that has certain qualities. And a good little tool that's built into the game for finding just such a site is this Find Desired Location. So if you press F, it will give you a little tool. So X and Y dimension, this basically tells the game how big you want your map to be. 4x4 is pretty standard. That's like a medium-sized map. If you wanted, you could have like a 1x1, which would be a really small, crowded area to play on. That's not much fun though. So a few things. We do want a river. Running water is great for a number of reasons, which I'll get into later, so I want that. Yes. Aquifer. What is an aquifer? An aquifer is an underground water source. It's kind of, it's groundwater basically. You don't want it. Reason is that it's can be very difficult to get to lower stone levels if you have to dig through a layer of water. So we don't want that. Sort of for advanced players kind of thing. Fluxstone. What is fluxstone? Fluxstone is a kind of stone which is used in the production of steel. So we do want fluxstone. And this other stuff doesn't really matter as much. So I'm going to press enter to do a search. You're going to see that it's thinking up here. Again, I'm going to pause the video and let it do. Okay, so the game has found what it considers to be a suitable site. What I'm going to do here is press escape for done. And this is what it's found me. So it's got a little information about the kind of biome here, temperature, amount of trees, vegetation, so plants and bushes and stuff. Surroundings, this tells you something about how dangerous or not your surroundings are. If it's like evil or haunted, or untamed wilds, that might be a little scary for you as a new player, so I would probably try to find something that's not too insane. So the other thing is what we have here, these are basically the layers from closest to the surface to deepest. So you have sand and clay and stuff, and then eventually you'll dig down into obsidian and quartzite and marble and such. So this seems like a fine zone. I'm not gonna spend an hour trying to find an amazing zone, so I'm just gonna go ahead and press embark. So I'm running out of time for this video. The next video will cover what happens next, basically how you choose your loadout and dwarves and skills and everything, and start playing the game.